I want to talk about some of the recipes. Did you design the recipes with taste in mind as well as health?
Absolutely. So David and I are both chefs, and we've both worked in restaurants. And what we found is a lot of diet books create a diet solution rather than a delicious solution. and our original goal was to just set out and create some very, very yummy food. And luckily, with this kind of eating style, it's not difficult because you don't have to make do without butter or olive oil or anything. So it wasn't very challenging making delicious recipes. But yeah, I would back myself and say that the recipes are nice. Yeah.
And it's really interesting that you've combined a cookbook along with a diet book. Can you tell me about the information that someone would find inside the book when they pick it up?
Yeah, so we wanted a sort of one-stop shop because a lot of sort of I hate to call it a diet book because I think it's a lot more than just a diet book. But you've got three different areas. You've got the argument that explains why the diet's good, because usually a diet will just say, you know, this is what you eat and you'll lose weight. And this is more than just losing weight. It's about actually having a healthy life. And a lot of people struggle to understand how to eat, you know, why I should eat butter and bacon fats. So there's a huge scientific argument, similar to what Prof just spoke about, in a summarized version in the front. And then for the dietitians and doubting Toms, there's a very dense scientific article at the back. It's about 30 pages long. And then we used Sally Ann Creed, who has got years of clinical experience in actually developing eating plans in this style for patients. And using all of her knowledge, she actually developed a sort of slightly more structured sort of eating plan. So she actually wrote the diet part of it. And then together we all came up with sort of red lists and green lists and orange lists. So similar to Sassy, what you should buy, what you can buy, and what you shouldn't touch.
What's on the what you can buy list?
So that'll be things that are kind of normal ingredients that aren't bad for you but are higher in carbohydrates than, so say like butternut and sweet potato would be something that you can eat but in moderation. Whereas tender stem broccoli or spinach, you can eat as much as you like. And then on the other side, on the red list, you've got flour, white flour, which is, you know, toxic. Yeah. And then there are the recipes. So it really is a one-stop shop for someone who's interested or wants to take it on. They've got everything that they need in one, you know, one stack of 300 pages.
300 pages, how many recipes are in there?
100 recipes.
100 recipes.
And we've got a photograph for every single recipe, so you know exactly what it's supposed to look like, and if you're doing it wrong. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And there's, Prof, you've shared your explanation in the book that you shared with us, and then you can find that just in case you should have any doubts.
That's correct. We went to quite a lot of detail, but people have already written to me and said we want more information.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I was very happy about that, but I tried to make it as succinct as I could, but to be compelling and to give you all the evidence so that, you know, please, people judge it and just make your own decisions. I think the evidence is pretty clear, but I can understand why some people still feel that we've got to make our argument more powerfully. But we will be doing that.
Do you think with enough attention and people trying out this new lifestyle, eventually we could go back to the same way as eating as we did in the 70s?
Even before the 70s, I think we have to eat like our great-great-grandparents ate because they were extraordinarily healthy, and that's what we've forgotten. Our ill health really starts in the 1900s. Before that, many of the diseases, the chronic diseases that we have today, did not exist. And you have to think that it was nutritionally based because our food had changed completely from what our great-great-great-grandparents ate.
So do you think we can eventually get there where everyone is back eating what our great-great-grandparents ate?
Well, the problem, of course, is they're going to have to change the way food is prepared and sold, and the cost structure will have to change because it is slightly more expensive to eat the more marvelous recipes that John and David have produced. But that doesn't mean to say you can't eat this diet on a relatively little amount of money. Poor people can eat this diet. Instead of eating steak, they're going to be eating pilchards and sardines and livers and eggs. But you can still do very well on this diet on relatively little money. And that's the next big thing we want to do. Because we really believe that if we're bringing up our children on a high carbohydrate diet, they can't be as clever and as productive as they would be if they were eating proper foods. You can't produce brains from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates just make fat And that's it. They don't make brains and muscles. To make brains, you have to give children fat. And the whole pressure today is to give children high carbohydrate diets from the moment they are weaned. And it's a disaster, because that's the period when they want to be getting a high fat intake to develop their brains.
And do you find people are coming to you and saying, well, first you told us we need to take all these carbohydrates in, and now you're telling us actually no. Are you getting a lot of that feedback?
Oh, absolutely. So how can we believe you? And how do we know you're going to be not going to be wrong again? Well,
what do you have to say to them?
Well, the answer is that I tried the high carbohydrate diet for 33 years. It made me very sick, and I've read the literature, and I've really researched the literature. And you just have to look around you. You know, someone phoned in the other day and criticized me and said, you see, but black people in this country used to eat a lot of carbohydrates and they were healthy. So by his argument then, what must have happened is that black people in this country suddenly started eating lots of meat and lots of fat. And they aren't, we know that. They're eating very high carbohydrate diets. There's a study from Limpopo where people are very unhealthy. They're eating 75% carbohydrate and 20% fat. They're doing exactly what they're meant to be doing. Yet the obesity rates are epidemic there. So the argument that people did something in the past, we have to look at what are they doing now. And it's very clear that people are not eating the real meals that we're prescribing. That is not what people are eating. They're eating a different diet. And so we get blamed, and we say, the key is, how can you blame the modern illnesses on historic foods? Ancient foods, you can't. What's killing us is the foods we're eating now, and they were not the ancient foods we used to eat.
And where can people pick up the book?
Anywhere. Literally at bookstores nationwide. Exclusive Books has it. I know that CNA stocks it. Reader's Warehouse. And then also kalahari.com, which is the easiest place to go if you've got internet.
Okay, cool. And Professor, if anyone wants to read up on the research you're doing, how can they do that?
Well, we are starting our own website, and it's going to be the Noakes Foundation or Original Eating. That's two of the websites. And we're also going to have a website with the Real Meal website. So that's the information that we're going to be pushing out in the next year or so. Just to make the point that there is an enormous amount of information supporting what we believe.